attending our 5th annual National POW Recognition Day event. Since 1989, the third Friday in September has been set aside to remember our POWs and MIAs and to renew our ongoing efforts to locate and return those MIAs yet to be recovered. I want to say a little something about Linebacker 2, also known as the Christmas bombing. It began 18 December 1972 and lasted until 29 December, when primarily Air Force B-52s and Navy carrier aircraft for the first time carried out a sustained bombing campaign against strategic military North Vietnamese targets in and around Hanoi and Haiphong, the most heavily defended environment in the world. The ship that you see on the screen is a Kitty Hawk, and she was the flagship of that operation. At the end of those 11 days, we had lost 26 aircraft and 75 airmen. But treatment for the POWs was drastically improved. The North Vietnamese returned to the Paris peace talks, and the POWs began returning home 6 weeks later on February 12th. Well, I'm going to tell you one more thing. One of my very best friends, Lieutenant Rich Ryder, he's a deck officer aboard the Kitty Hawk during Linebacker 2. And he always told me how proud he was to be part of a campaign that helped to get the POWs home. Okay, now we're going to have our panel 2. That'll be Captain Jack Ensch, Kathy Ensch, Vicki Zabel, and Paige Brander. Please come forward and have a seat. Okay. Captain Jack, who Dan Pedersen referred to a little while ago, he was aboard an F-4 flying from the Midway on Yankee Station in the Gulf of Tonkin when he was shot down over North Vietnam in August of 1972. Jack, you were there in 72, obviously. Do you remember anything about the bombing, the Christmas bombing, when you were there?
Yes, I don't see how I can forget it. 18th of December, I was in a large cell with about 40 other POWs, and we had just tucked ourselves in for a long winter's nap. And all of a sudden we heard rocket missiles going off and everything, and B-52s were coming in. And one of my cellmates was Air Force pilot Tim Wells, 18th December, happened to be his birthday. And we turned to him and said, "God damn, we didn't know you were going to have a birthday party here." And the B-52s came in, and the bombing, it was so close to the prison that we were actually, the impact on your nervous system, you involuntarily were shaking like this. The plaster was coming down from the ceilings and in our cells and everything like that. And I remember, I don't know which one of us said, "Gee, we hope they know where this prison is," because it was 4th of July, New Year's Eve, everything all rolled into one. It was of course, we started, when we realized what it was, we stood up in ourselves and started cheering, which the guards, they're very disapproved.
Vicki Zabel, well, tell us why I got you out there.
Well, I received this bracelet. We had a kind of a fundraiser where I lived in Olympia, Washington. I was in Junior Women's Club, and we sold these bracelets as a fundraiser for our wonderful people that were serving for us. And I, wore it for ages, and it's been with me for quite a while.
And whose name's on your bracelet?
On my bracelet, it's Lieutenant. And he's been called many names. He's been called Jack, John, Fingers, But I always called him my guy, and his name is Lieutenant Jack Ensch.
This is the first time you guys have ever met, correct?
Yes, tonight.
We're newfound friends after 50 years.
Yeah.
Now, Brian C. was aboard an F-4. By the way, Jack and Brian both flew F-4. If you look right back there, that's the F-4. That's the plane they flew. Jack was, like he mentioned, just looked just like that. He was an Air Force guy, so it was painted a little bit differently, but otherwise it's the same. Brian, why don't you and Gail come on up here, please?
I just sat down.
Remember anything about the Christmas fund?
No. Yeah. It was, like Jack said, I don't know, Jack is what, 20 feet away from me or something? It was pretty scary, really. It's a little different when you're on the ground and this stuff's going on. And the ground pounders know all about that. When you're dropping them, it's very impersonal. But when you're on the ground, it's a bigger deal in a lot of ways. So yes, it was scary, but it was also, these guys were serious. Those guys are serious. They're pounding the hell out of them, and they were. And yet the big guns were going off all around us, because the big guns were near the POW camps. So they couldn't be taken out. They were afraid to blow us up, knocking out a gun. So it was a lot going on, but overall, once we figured out we might live through it, it was pretty exciting, really. And it was pretty bad when they knocked down a B-52 every once in a while, which they did. And I won't go into the details of that, but that was pretty ugly. 6 guys, big airplane. So, I don't know what else to say about it. Everything got better after that as time went on. Yeah. I'd like to say Jack Ensch was a horrible roommate.